Everyone, Jim Coventry here. Welcome, week 9. Trying to set up the Instagram feed as well as we go here. Going to be a great week this week. We're going to answer some start-sit questions here. I've been on a show the previous hour, so if there were any inactives that came up recently, I did hear that Tua Tagovailoa is out. We'll definitely talk about that. Let me get the comments on here. There we go. Looks like we're good here. And I think we're out here. So if anybody's here, just type something so I know that you're following me. Make sure you type yes, something like this. And Instagram, let's see if I'm even on here. Let's try that again. There we go. Looks like Instagram starting up here. And again, good morning. If somebody's in the house, just type hey so I know that this is working here. I don't see anything in chat area. Help me out here. Looking forward to some games today. Tyron Smith is out for the Cowboys. I'm not concerned there at all. Lyle Collins was back last week, but Terrence Steele played. He's going to move over to left tackle. Oh, good. Hey, Len. Hey, Johnny. Good. Glad everybody's here. All right, we're going to talk some football here. See some people on Instagram coming in. Welcome, everybody. Take questions. Samir, how's it going? Good to see you. Be glad to take everybody's questions. Go ahead and ask those, and we'll start rolling with these. If questions aren't coming in, I'll give you some heads up on some of the different games for today. We'll talk there. Morning, Wadeo. Glad to see you. Johnny, good. We got one here. Adrian Peterson or Ernest Johnson. It's a fantastic question. You know, I get it. I heard that Peterson's starting for them. I can't see a 36-year-old back being in game shape. I mean, game shape is like something. And the odds are the Rams get out to a pretty decent lead here. Well, Peterson's not the receiving back. McNichols is. So I don't know how many touches Peterson gets. Ernest Johnson is getting backup work. It's going to probably be more of a slugfest there. And so I have to go the route of saying they both are floor plays with not a lot of ceiling. But I think Ernest Johnson could see a couple of targets, and I think that elevates him above Peterson. I just think Peterson's going to struggle getting through the interior line. I mean, I just don't see a lot of scenarios where it works out for him this week. They need to play with a lead for Peterson to be relevant. And all right, let's see what we got here. Flex play, Alex. Let's see we got. Oh, we got a couple. Wadeo, Bridgewater, or Tyrod Taylor. So both of them are good options. Now, Bridgewater's advantages. Cowboys are likely to play with a lead. He's probably going to have to throw. He has really good weapons. He got Judy. He's got Sutton. Albert Fanta's out for this one. Tim Patrick. I like that. But I also like Tyrod Taylor because he's got Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins, and the Dolphins have struggled against outside receivers, even though they have great names at corner. So I'm going to say in this one, I do think Bridgewater is the safer play. I think he has a really good floor here. But Tyrod Taylor, I think, may be an interesting play because, again, he has those receivers. But I'm going to go with a 60% grade to Bridgewater because I think playing with a deficit is huge. Houston could run the ball more than we like because this game could be close. And that's ultimately why I'm going to lean Bridgewater. All right, let me bounce back between the platforms here. Samir, click your question on the screen here. Eli Mitchell. So, yeah, I know they're starting him, and that tells me something. And he didn't play well against Arizona last time, but that was the Trey Lance game when they were putting a fullback on the field. Arizona used 3 defensive backs, and they knew they weren't going to pass. It wasn't a good setup. Mitchell's had 18 touches and 100 yards in 2 straight games. The blocking scheme is great. I do think Mitchell is going to get you at least 75 yards here. I think Jeff Wilson will get some work, but I do feel confident that Mitchell in this running scheme is a very good runner. And if they start him, my guess is they play him enough. So I do like him a little bit there, enough to say over. It definitely is a top 18 to 20 running back. All right, Alex on Insta, so that won't go on the screen for everybody else. Flex play, Ernest Johnson, Kenyon Drake, or Mike Gesicki. So here's the deal. When Devontae Parker was out of the lineup, Gesicki seeing 8 targets a game. When Devontae Parker was in the lineup, Gesicki seeing 5.5 targets a game. Well, now they just put Devontae Parker on IR. Gesicki is in a great spot here. The matchup against tight ends, the Houston's like bottom 4 against tight ends, and Gesicki should see those targets. I love Gesicki here. All right, let's go back to Twitter and YouTube. Brian, all right, there you go. Khalil Herbert oh, man, I know that is a difficult one right now. So Montgomery's coming back from the injury. It's a Monday night game, too. We don't know how this is going to shake out. Herbert's going to get touches. Pittsburgh is a very tough run defense, and it's a game as in Pittsburgh. I still think Montgomery is getting eased back because he hasn't been practicing long. I think they see similar touches. Herbert has been running hot. He's been running hard, which makes a difference. Montgomery needs a little bit to work with. I don't think he has that here. It's going to be really close, but I'm going to go with Herbert here. And then after the bye, Montgomery moves up from there. All right, let's go to the next one. I got one on Insta, so you guys won't see this on the screen on Twitter and YouTube. Emergency, Jeff Wilson startable. My guess is only if you need him as like a top 35 running back, because Arizona is very good against the run. And I just said Mitchell's in a decent spot because Mitchell has 4.3 speed. Mitchell is special in terms of his measurables. I know Jeff Wilson has been very successful in this rushing scheme since he's been there, but I don't think he's going to get necessarily a lot of touches here. You're welcome, Alex. So right now, look, anything can happen. We understand that. But right now, I'm going to say it's still Mitchell's show. And I'm going to think that a desperation flex type play for Jeff Wilson. And then after we see kind of what happens this week, we go from there. Johnny Football, yeah, Tua is out. Jalen Waddle or Chase Claypool. So here's the beautiful thing. Jacoby Brissett likes throwing the ball short. Well, Jalen Waddle runs a ton of short targets. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Whereas the Bears are without Khalil Mack, and that's huge because that's the pressure rate. But I still think Claypool had two good games. One good game was when Deontay Johnson was out and Claypool took Deontay's role. The other game was Juju Smith-Schuster got hurt in game, and then Claypool took that role. But whenever Claypool's been in Claypool's role, Ben can't find him downfield. So to me, it's Jalen Waddle because he's going to get volume, and it may not be for a ton of yards, but he's going to get volume. That's why I'm going to lean his way. Let me see if I got any other questions on Insta here that I missed. Looks like right now we're in good shape. Welcome everybody on Insta. Definitely type those questions. You have them. Robert, all right, good to see you, man. You need 2 of these 5, half PPR. Ayuk, Shenault, Agnew, or it may not be that bad, Robert. So, look, Ayuk's route participation was very promising last week. He actually had a touchdown potential, but the throw was a little bit late. The defender got a hand in. Ayuk caught a 2-point conversion as well. I think Ayuk is going to start emerging in this offense. Deebo Samuel is playing limited. I think Ayuk sees extra targets this week. I think Samuel could be a decoy. I do like Ayuk this week, and I know he's been garbage this year, but I like him here. And Nico Collins, I really like him here because Tyrod Taylor's a quarterback. He's a professional quarterback. And I know that sounds stupid, but he gets the job done. And so they're playing Miami, who has names at outside corner, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, but they haven't been stopping anybody. So Nico Collins with Davis Mills has shown to be what we talked about in the preseason. He is a very good outside receiver. He has a great pedigree coming in. He didn't play for a Michigan team that didn't throw, so his numbers weren't good. I like Collins. I like Ayuk here by a good margin. I think they both can be productive surprisingly for you here. All right. Laura and Jim Cooperman. All right. Need 2 in the PPR. Boston Scott, Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, Derek Gore, Dalton Schultz, or AP. You know, Dalton Schultz, the last game he played, not so hot, but he typically gets you 60 to 80 yards a game. And I think against Denver, this is one of those situations that works out really well for him. Michael Gallup was not activated. They're still going with the 2 receivers. So I think Schultz has a pretty solidified role. He actually, when I was talking in last week's serious show, he had more targets in the prior 4 games than Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. So I think we're going to roll with Schultz and hope that we do well there. Your other one, yeah, it's definitely tough. And guys on Insta, appreciate the request to be in the video. I'm on 3 platforms, so I can't take that, but I do appreciate it, but I can answer any questions you type in. So thank you very much for asking that. The other play, Laura and Jim Cooperman, Tony Pollard, because I think Dallas plays with a lead, and I think it could be a significant lead in the second half. And I think they understand the need to keep Zeke fresh for the long haul. So I think Pollard could clean up in garbage time here and get you about 70 yards with a chance of scoring. So we're going to go with the Dallas duo here. Yeah, that's what I like. The thing with Boston Scott, great game last week, but you see, they played with a lead. And that was huge. This week, I expect the Chargers. The point spread's close. I think the Chargers are going to come out smoking this game. And I think in a trail spot, Kenny Gainwell is the receiving back. And I know Scott can catch, but I think that's the shakeout of things. So that's why I'm going to go that route. All right, back to Insta. Abaconi. Kadarius Toney, Jerry, Judy, Ayuk, or Kirk in a standard. So Christian Kirk is pressed back to the outside with A.J. Green out and probably DeAndre Hopkins up. He's much better in the slot. We're going to rule him out. I did say earlier I like Ayuk, but Kadarius Toney's in a good spot this week. Now, he hurt the thumb. At least it's not his ankle, though. And against Dallas, he's going to have to be – I'm sorry, not against Dallas. I'm talking about – I saw your Jerry Judy. I'm looking back to Kadarius Toney. They're playing the Raiders. The Raiders get pressure from Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue without blitzing. Therefore, Jones is going to have to get the ball out quickly. To me, that means that we're looking at a high-volume game for Toney. And that's why I like him here. Judy's a good play. I think Toney has a good floor, and he has decent upside here. That's the route I'm going to go there. Thanks for that question. All right, and I'm back to YouTube and Twitter. All right, Dominique, Kenneth Gainwell, Kenyon Drake, or Carlos Hyde. Yeah, we don't like Carlos Hyde's matchup greatly against the Dolphins, but I'm sorry, wrong game here. I got to go back to the Texans here. Yeah, Texans. I'm going to go to the Jaguars. Jaguars. Why am I drawing a blank here? It's very unlike me. They're playing the Bills. All right, Carlos Hyde will be force-fed in some way or the other. Urban Meyer loves him. He's going to see rushing attempts. He's going to see some targets. Not a great player, not a great matchup, but I think his volume wins the day. Kenny Gainwell, he should see targets if they trail, but they are not committed to him enough. They don't give him enough of the work. If you're going to tell me Carlos Hyde's a pretty much full-time player, I've got to roll the dice on that and hope for a short touchdown, hope for one run where he breaks it for 25, 30 yards. And that's the route I'm going to go on that one. I think that's the solid play to Carlos Hyde. John, Mooney or Mike Williams? All right, so this one will be easy for me. Mooney's in trouble this week because in the games where Justin Fields was under heavy pressure, he's not getting the ball out, and that's the problem. When he's not under pressure, Mooney performs pretty well. Mike Williams is in a great bounce back spot. Look, New England took him away by design last week. 2 weeks ago, before the bye, he played 23 or 26 snaps on a bad ankle, and he just missed scoring a touchdown. Mike Williams, to me, is the X receiver in that offense. He is still a stud. He is going to have a great second half of the season, and Darius Slay doesn't travel, and I don't even think the Philly personnel is, even though their pass rating is high, they don't match up well with this Chargers offense. I think Mike Williams has a very good week, and Darnell Mooney has a disappointing one. All right, back to Insta for a question, which you guys won't see on the other screen there. Josh Alou has Mooney or Robbie Anderson. Oh, man, they're throwing Robbie Anderson in there. Anderson seeing a lot of targets, been horribly inefficient. Sam Darnold's playing hurt. They're playing the Patriots, and we know the history of Sam Darnold seeing ghosts against them. You know what? And I just said Mooney's not in a great spot, but he's in a better spot than Robbie Anderson. So I'm going to go with Mooney because at least Mooney could do a little something with some targets, but I really think that Anderson's in a lot of trouble here. All right, Len, good to see you, man. Adrian Peterson's with Dancing with Stars contestant. Should I go? I like that. Very nice. Yeah, Adrian Peterson. And I do want to make a comment about Peterson for everybody. I may have made this early in the show, but he can't be in football shape right now. It's going to take him a few weeks. And he's 36 years old. He'll get carries, yes. I don't think he does a ton with them. They count on Derrick Henry to create a lot and break tackles. Peterson may not be that guy, but he needs a crease. And I don't know that line's giving him a crease. And that's for everybody because a lot of people rostered Peterson since he's added. In games that Tennessee is projected to lead, I think Peterson could be a very nice, useful fantasy option. In games they're going to trail, they don't have the luxury now of running when they're down double digits in the second half. With Derrick Henry, they would keep running even when they were losing, and they'd be okay. They now will have to be like every other team. They're going to have to throw when they're behind. But, Len, I know you were kidding. I love the question, but I wanted to talk about Peterson because I think it was very relevant. All right, Johnny Football, Jordan Love or Jacoby Brissett. You know, Jacoby Brissett is a good matchup, and he runs a little bit. He runs at the goal line. We love that. Overall, Jacoby Brissett, he gets it done. He uses his Mike Gesicki. He uses Jalen Waddle. It's not pretty. It never is pretty, but he gets enough done. Jordan Love, to me, it's not Green Bay, in my opinion, they are going to do what they did against Arizona. They are going to run the ball. Against Arizona, they didn't have Devontae Adams. They didn't have Allen Lazard, so they said, we're going to run. And Arizona's a good run defense. Well, now they're playing the Chiefs, who can't stop anybody on the ground, so they may not ask Love to do much at all, and I think they could control the game on the ground. So give me some Jacoby Brissett here. Brian, you're always welcome. All right. Any other questions on Insta? Go ahead and type those up. We'll get you guys set up as well. Scott Lynn, welcome back. Oh, I see the Raiders insignia on there. I like that. Gaskin or Sutton. Dallas is number one in DVOA against wide receiver ones. I found that very interesting. And Dallas is probably going to get some pass rush on Teddy Bridgewater. That said, Courtland Sutton isn't just a downfield deep threat. He's really become a guy who can be successful on any type of route they use him. They're going to trail. Courtland Sutton's going to have to be involved here despite the bad matchup. Gaskin is just a question. The coaching staff does not commit to using him in any particular way, and that bothers me because I don't know what we're getting. Now, the matchup for Gaskin is good. You think he will have. I think that Gaskin will get enough work to be a good floor play. But I think Sutton has a similar floor, but I think he has more upside in a game that they're going to be chasing points. So I think this is like 60 to 40%. A lot of times they're closer than that. Sutton 60%, Gaskin 40%. And if you have a gut feel, go with it. The standard really leans that 60% Sutton because if it was PPR, Gaskin gets a lot of those dump offs if that's the role they're going to choose to continue him in. But yeah, I think that's going to be the route there. Johnny Football, Dallas -10. So I don't think there's a trap game here for Dallas in any way. I don't think the Minnesota game was any great shakes for them last week. So I think they come in here fine. I don't know that Teddy's going to backdoor cover. I don't think that. Dallas can run it down their throats. Like the Broncos are very poor against the run. We saw that in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago when Ernest Johnson lit them up. Zeke Elliott can crush them on the ground, and they're not going to stop you through the air. Bryce Callahan is out, which is another ding that are secondary. They're just dropping. the Von Miller's gone. They have no pass rush now. So I do think Dallas is in a great spot to cover this, and they've been mentally tough this year. So I think Dallas does cover this 10-point line. It's a big line. They're at home, but I think no reason to back away from that. You know what? I don't know if I missed this question, but Apicone, you had Daniel Jones or Brissett. I might have missed that one. So, Daniel Jones is going to have a bit of an issue here. The Raiders get great pressure from Crosby and Ngakoue on the edges without blitzing, which means they can keep their coverage on the back end. So I think Daniel Jones is going to have to be patient, but that's not his game. And so I think that Daniel Jones has a lot of implosion here because of the potential of that pocket collapsing on him. Now he can run. So Daniel Jones is always your wild card. Daniel Jones always has more upside than your average, borderline quarterback, but he has more downside. Brissett is probably going to get you 1 to 2 touchdowns. He's probably going to run for a few yards. He has a great chance of scoring near the goal. So I think Brissett's your steady option. I think if you had to swing for the fences because you're in a game where you need to chase, you need a 30-point game out of your quarterback, Jones would have the chance to do that. But the steady points are Brissett. Daniel Jones is your swing for the fence play. All right. If I ever miss your questions too, guys, just repost them. I go in order and it takes a while for me to get to them, but especially on Insta, if I don't see it, let me know. All right, let's see. Next question here. All right, Cole Kids, Tyrod Taylor or Jacoby Brissett? Yeah, this is one I may have had something similar earlier. So this is a very, very much of a toss-up question. I think both of them have very similar projections. I think this game is close. I think neither quarterback has to go extremely pass-heavy, although I think Tyrod Taylor is more likely to throw than Brissett. And so I think Taylor, this is so close. This is like a 53 to 47% one because it's that close. And I know why you're asking that question. That's why Tyrod Taylor rates a slight edge because it really seems like he was in that 1.5 games he played. He was clicking with Brandon Cooks, who can make some big plays for him. Tyrod Taylor is more likely to throw downfield than Jacoby Brissett, where Brissett's going to matriculate the ball down the field. So I think in that scenario, Tyrod Taylor rates that slight edge because of that. Andy, is Tannehill a good start for this week? It depends. They're going to have to throw, which is that good or bad? Well, they got Julio, they got A.J. Brown, they're going to face Jalen Ramsey. They're going to get a lot of pass rush, even if Von Miller doesn't play. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to trail a lot. And so I think Tannehill is going to have upside. There's downside, but I think he has. I think 2 touchdowns is a reasonable expectation. They're going to score some points. They're too good at receiver, and I know Jalen Ramsey lurks. But if as expected, Julio Jones is healthy, I think that really helps. All right, let's see. Josh Alou, Mooney, this on Insta, so you guys won't see this question on Twitter and YouTube. Mooney or Robbie Anderson or Rondale Moore? I love Rondale Moore this week. I think they're going to manufacture touches or jet sweeps, handoffs, screens. AJ Green is out. DeAndre Hopkins unlikely to play. Kyler may not even play. So I think they're going to manufacture touches to Rondale, and he is so explosive. At some point, one of those touches is going to go for a 40-yard gain, and I think they're going to have to utilize him heavily. And so I think Rondale is the play here. All right, let's go to the new comments here, see what I missed or didn't miss here. All right, here we go. Good. All right, TS, Flex 1, Julio, Manny Sanders, or Melvin Gordon. All right, so Manny Sanders goose eggs last week. He had 4 targets. 2 were downfield. Josh Allen missed them. He had a chance, even on 2 catches, to have a good game. But I think there's a huge snapback spot against the Jacksonville Jaguars because Manny Sanders is getting targets. He's a regular part of that offense. Teams can't commit to stop him because Stephon Diggs. So I do think this is a Manny Sanders game. Julio, I need to see him have a good game or two because I don't know if the hamstring isn't really 100%. He's going to have a setback. Since you have such a good option as Sanders, I think we go that route. Melvin Gordon, Dallas is really good against pass-catching running backs. And so if the Dallas Cowboys play with the lead, and they're going to have to dump the ball off. Dallas is 5th in DVOA to receiving running backs, and that's not good for Melvin Gordon. So I'm thinking Sanders is a great play this week, and I think he should have a big game for you here. He should get 80 yards with a good chance of scoring a touchdown. I'd lean that way. And those on Insta, welcome as well. I'll look for questions on there as well. Randy, good to see you, man. Need one flex non-PPR, Javonte, Adrian Peterson, or Bateman. Yeah, it's a tough one here. So, again, Peterson, I'm concerned because if they trail, they're not keeping him on the field in a trailing game. He's not a pass catcher. They're not going to use him. That's more of the McNichols role. I think the Rams roll out to an early lead. And unlike when Derrick Henry was there and they'd run when they were down double digits because they had Derrick Henry, I don't think they have that luxury. I think that'd be a pass-first team in trailing situations. I think Rashad Bateman's a decent play. He's cleared to play. Should be fine here. Minnesota has no great shakes on defense. Bateman may not have a great ceiling, but I think he has a solid enough floor. Javonte Williams, it's not an easy matchup. Dallas has been very, very solid against the run. They've been 7. Let me say their DVOA. I don't even have that right here. Try to find the Dallas. Dallas is 11th in DVOA against the run. And so they've been a tougher unit. Their linebackers are real active. So I'm going to go with Bateman here. I'm going to think both for floor and for ceiling, Randy. I think Bateman is the best choice here. Peterson does worry me because of the matchup here. All right, John. All right, let's see. I don't expect, unless you guys tell me, even if he's active, I don't think he's going to be. But if you guys see he's active for sure, post it for me. I'm no confidence in James Robinson because I don't think he's going to play. But if you guys notice he's active, tell me and I'll revisit it. But as far as my expectations, they didn't expect him to go, which means if he does go, setback is going to be very strong possibility. And I don't see them giving him a full workload. And they're playing the Bills. And if this game gets out of hand early, this game could be 21-0 in the second quarter. And at that point, are they going to bother, risking his ankle more? So I'm not confident, John. Bean Productions. Ken Anderson, it looks like you got on the cover there, number 14. See that. All right. Manny Sanders, Cole Beasley, Tyler Boyd, or Rashad Bateman. As I was saying a minute ago, Manny Sanders is in a great spot. He goose-egged last week. He had 4 targets. 2 were downfield. Josh Allen missed them. He could have at least done something on those 2 targets. But he's a big part of their passing attack. And I think against the Jaguars, you got to get him right this week. Beasley's a little bit nicked up. And I thought even before that, I thought the outside receivers are where you're going to attack. So I knew the last 2 games were Beasley games. I think this one's a Sanders game. Boyd, I think that's a low-volume game across the board. Bateman, good floor play. I don't know there's a lot of ceiling. To me, it's Manny Sanders fairly easily. Got one on Insta, so you guys won't see this question on YouTube and Twitter. Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert. So, yeah, same game, too. Justin Herbert, I feel the Philly defense cannot stop him. I feel that they play the same type of zone that we saw 3 weeks ago with the Ravens, then the bye, then they played the Patriots. The talent isn't there, and they don't make moves on the defense that confuse the quarterback. They don't cover receiving backs. They don't cover the middle of the field well. To me, there's a 3 to 4 touchdown game for Justin Herbert. And I know Jalen Hurts is like a QB1 every game except for the blowout win last week. But I think Justin Herbert, I think this is a signature type game. I think he's 300 yards. I think he's 3 to 4 touchdowns. And, Jalen Hurts is always the rushing stuff there. But I think Justin Herbert's a great play this week. All right. Randy, Gainwelder, Bateman. So those who were box score hunting last week saw the touches were pretty equal between Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, and Kenny Gainwell. Gainwell didn't get into the game until it was out of hand in a blowout win. Then he piled up a lot of late touches, but they played with a lead in that game. They're playing the Chargers. If they're going to trail, Gainwell, I believe, is still their receiving hurry-up back. And I think that gives him a lot of value here. Now, Bateman has a better floor because Gainwell could just ghost us. We could see him just not used. The coaching staff has been very whimsical about their use of him. Gainwell is your ceiling play. I believe he can score. I believe he can hit 60, 70 yards. But he also has a floor that if they don't utilize him, Bateman is safer. He's going to get you points. He may not get you a lot, but he will get you something guaranteed in the box score. And if that's what you need, you use him. If you're in a game where you can risk a low score for a potential 15 to 20 point game, I think Gainwell has that in his range of outcomes, but Bateman is more static. We're going to see probably 45 to 60 yards, not a lot of catches. So I think that's kind of the way we go on that. Johnny Football, assuming Colt McCoy and Hopkins start, Claypool or Hopkins. I really believe Colt McCoy, again, I'll use the word I use with Tyrod Taylor. Colt McCoy is a professional quarterback. Is he great? No. Now, the 49ers have not been great at applying pressure this year. I'm going to check their pressure rate because I believe, they're 21st in pressure rate, even though they have Nick Bosa. D Ford is out, which helps. I do think the quarterback is going to lean on the alpha. So if Hopkins is healthy, I believe he leans on him heavily to utilize him. Now, could he have a setback, Hopkins? Yes, he can. Claypool's problematic because I mentioned earlier in the show, the 2 games he did well. Deontay Johnson was out. Claypool played Deontay's role, thrived. Juju went out in another game. Claypool moved into his role. They isolated him on linebackers. He crushed. Every game Chase Claypool's played in the Chase Claypool role, he hasn't been good because Ben can't throw downfield with consistency. So I am going to say if Hopkins is healthy, we go with Hopkins. Otherwise, obviously, your choice is made for you. He's out. Insta, welcome everybody there. If you have any questions, go ahead and type those in. Bean, thoughts on CMC? You know what? I learned my lesson last year. So, this was great last year. They were playing Kansas City. CMC was out for an extended period of time. Hey, Johnny Football, if you see, I just saw something flash on my screen about James Robinson. If you know what it is, type in the comments for me so I can pick that up, whatever happened with him. All right. So last year, CMC, I had loaded my DFS lineups. I would have had a massive killing. But right before the game, they announced, CMC is going to be limited in this game. Like 30-something fantasy points later, he wasn't very limited. I think that coaches, once they get him on the field, you can't take him off the field because he's just so darn good. And so I think CMC is a full go. Weekly lineups, you're 100% putting him in because he doesn't need a lot of work to be productive for you. But I don't think you'd have to have some dynamic options. This is CMC. I think I don't know how he doesn't get 80 yards. He's a good chance of scoring here. The Patriots don't stop receiving backs, and that's where he could really make his hay here this week. So I do like CMC here. Johnny, Buffalo -15, New England -3.5. So, they love that over 14 line with Buffalo. Jacksonville's a mess. They're a mess. And Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be a great quarterback, but he doesn't have weapons this year. He doesn't have a coach to help him. I do think Buffalo on the road, I don't think there's a letdown problem here. I know it's not a team you're amped up for, but I think Jacksonville is just so horrific on defense. I don't know how Buffalo doesn't score 35 points. And to cover that means that Jacksonville would have to score into the 20s. And I see that as a tough sell because they get pressure, they stop the run, they cover. And if James Robinson's out, that's even worse for them. I do like the -15. New England -3.5. Sam Darnold's going to play, which is good for New England. CMC's on the field, which is good for Carolina. But overall, I think it's a really low-scoring game. I don't think New England's going to like open up the stops defensively. And Carolina, let me just check something on them real quick. Carolina is number 6 against the pass. So I think that they're a run funnel. So I think that Damian Harris is going to run, but that's going to shorten the game. So that's when you're laying 3.5 is problematic. The lower the score, the harder it is to cover the hook. So I'm more likely to lay off this game because that hook gets me nervous. If it was 2.5, I would say New England. 3.5, I'm very nervous about that. Insta, see if any questions are here. Welcome, everybody. No, it looks like we're good on Insta for right now. We're halfway through the show here. Welcome, everybody. Oh, by the way, next week, I have to be at a wedding out of town, so I will not be doing the stream. I'm going to think about doing one on Thursday night or something. That would be early for everybody. But if you do have questions, I might post that up during the week and try to catch everybody then. All right, Boogie B. James Robinson. Let me see if I can find that news on James Robinson real quick. And let me just click to see if he's playing or not. Johnny, let's see if you answered me here too. Let's see. Maybe you did. Anybody? Because you guys are good at pointing out the inactives. Yeah, thanks, Johnny. James Robinson's out. So thank you, Johnny. I had to scroll down to see that. So Robinson's out. So you got Peterson or Montgomery. Well, we don't know what Montgomery's role is going to be. It's a stinking Monday night game. I assume he'll 100% be active. Peterson, I worry about because if they trail, which they should against the Rams, I think he's game scripted out. He can't be in football shape. He hasn't done anything football related. He's 36 years old. Does he get 30 yards? Maybe. I don't see him breaking a long run here. So, I've got to go with Montgomery. Even if Montgomery gets 12 touches, which I don't know that he'll get that, but I could see Peterson getting 7 yards. I could see that happening. The Rams aren't easy to run against. Peterson's like new to this. I mean, he hasn't been around. So I've got to go Montgomery because of that. And Robinson's out, so we're set there. Same game, parlay bets for today, Johnny. Man, this is one of those weeks I didn't get time to do more to the sports betting. I got more on I just stuck on the fantasy. So let me take a quick look here. Johnny, I have to circle back on toward the end of the show. I'll look at some of the things. I got notes here, and I could go through notes, but I'm going to get to and then circle back a minute near the end of the hour. I'll go through my notes, and I'll find you some because I definitely have plenty of notes where I could surface that. I got a Insta question, so you guys won't see that on the screen here. McNichols, Kirk, or Connor for a flex. So Kirk, the problem is he's going to be forced to go back to the outside here because AJ Green's out, D-Hop might not play, and Kirk is a great slot receiver. He's not very good on the outside, and so this is not a good match for him. James Conner is good in the red zone, and when they're leading, I don't think they'll lead. I don't think there'll be a lot of red zone looks here, so that worries me. So I'm going to say McNichols because I expect the Rams to play with the lead, which means McNichols should be the passing down back, and I think he gets plenty of volume, especially in the second half. So to me, I like McNichols here. It's a good question. Guy, Wilson Jr., hard to know what to – they're saying Eli Mitchell's a little bit limited, but they're going to start him. So I think Wilson might get you 5 to 7 touches. He's great in the red zone, but Mitchell's been good in the red zone as well. So there's a lot of floor with Wilson here if he's not the starter. We're going to gamble that Mitchell might have a setback, might not finish, and then Wilson looks really good. To me, he's a flex option, and he's a boom-bust flex option in the hopes that he finds the end zone in what should be a very low-scoring game against a very good Arizona run defense. And I know that Wilson can get it done, but as the backup, that concerns him. So, again, he's a flex, and that's about it. Boogie B, you got Bateman, Tim Patrick, Jalen Waddle. So Devontae Parker's on the IR, and Tua Tagovailoa is out, so Jacoby Brissett's a quarterback. I think Waddle gets a lot of volume here, so I think Waddle is your floor play. You want to bank those, say, 8 points, maybe a little bit more. I think Jalen Waddle's your guy. Patrick is in the situation where Denver is likely to trail. Trevon Diggs is likely to spend more time on Courtland Sutton. And I think Patrick will be forced in the 3 receiver sets because they're going to trail. So I think your upside boom bust play is Tim Patrick, but I think Waddle is the safe play with not a lot of ceiling, but a really good floor. So if you want to bank the safe points as Waddle, if you need to swing for the fence and risk a low scoring game for one where it might get you, a big play for a touchdown, then I think Tim Patrick will be your play. Bateman is just, I don't think Bateman's floor is as high as Waddle's, so I kind of rule him out of this. Julia, and I saw you sent a message this morning. I'm sorry I haven't yet to get to it. I had 2 shows this morning, so it's been a little bit crazy, but good morning to you as well. Thank you for being here. Johnny, Rondale Moore, Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, or Waddle need 3. So, look, Brandon Cooks gets Tyrod Taylor back, and that's huge because it was tough with Davis Mills. But I think Tyrod knows where his bread is buttered. Get the ball to your alpha. Cooks lines up all over the field. Miami's not been good against receivers. We mentioned a minute ago, Jalen Waddle. I really feel he is getting a lot of targets here. And Rondale Moore, I think, is manufactured a lot of looks here. Claypool always worries me. I mentioned earlier in the show, when he's the 2 games, he wasn't in his role. He's in the Deontay role one game. He's in the Juju role one game. But when he's in the Chase Claypool role, Ben just can't find him downfield. So I think we're sitting Claypool here. Claypool's the most talented really, he's probably the best player. I don't say talented because Waddles and the Cooks they're all uber talented. I think Claypool's the best football player of the 4, but I think he's the one I'm sitting because of his situation. Back to an Insta question. You guys won't see this on the screen on YouTube and Twitter. PNLB, Albert O, Okway Bunam, or Evan Ingram, PPR, you're desperate. I like it. We all are, right? Yeah, no doubt. I like Albert O here. Their tight end position gets targets. And whatever reason, they don't use Fant well, and he's out, and that really helps. Evan Ingram is Evan Enigma, we'll call him, I think. And I think he doesn't get used well or efficiently, and he rarely has the game we want out of him. And overall, I think the Raiders are going to put pressure on, and so Ingram might get some dump-offs. So Ingram is safer. Ingram has a floor. Ingram's going to get you 7 PPR points pretty safely, and I think you could bank that. But I don't think Ingram has a lot of upside here. He's not making big plays. So I think if you're swinging for the fence and you can risk a 3 for a 15, I think Albert O could have it. He's very, very athletic, and he can make plays. Ingram's safer, though. So I think you bank the safe points here, especially since you're desperate like we all are. I like that. But Albert O is volatile. He gives you that. All right, Delroy, Gage or Patrick. So Gage played like 66 or 68% of the snaps last weekend. He got us a big old zilch. He's just not a good player. And I know he's produced. I get it. He's been productive on occasion. So we know that. But ultimately, I think Tim Patrick's in a good spot here. I think Dallas plays with a lead. I think that the Broncos are going to have to go with the 3 receiver sets. I think Cortland Sutton sees a lot of Trevon Diggs. I think Patrick has opportunity here. So I think Patrick has both a better floor and a better ceiling than Gage. Therefore, that's the route that I think we would be best following, Delroy. Good luck with that. All right. New comment. Scroll down here. Make sure I don't miss some other ones here. Well, there we go. All right, looks good. Jason, all right. 2 out. Start Waddle, Renfro, Judy at flex, PPR league. You have Waller and Josh Jacobs. So, I will say this, though. I love Hunter Renfro this week because the thing that the Giants struggle most with is defending the middle of the field. James Bradbury's a good outside corner, but they've struggled across the board in the middle of the field. And I know you have Darren Waller and how many points are the Raiders going to score. So Renfro's good, but Jalen Waddle's probably a better play. Jacoby Brissett is all about the short pass and getting it out of his hands. And I think that he's a perfect match for Jalen Waddle here. So I think that Jalen Waddle is going to be your guy. Jerry Jeudy's a good play too. But ultimately, I think Waddle is going to see so many targets that I think he has the best floor. Now, I would say Jeudy has a good ceiling because I believe Dallas can't put a lot of attention on him. They got Cortland Sutton, and Tim Patrick is worthy of consideration on the other side. So I think Jeudy does have potential for a big game here. So I think Waddle is your safe, high floor play. But Jeudy, I think if you got to swing for the fence, Jeudy gives you that opportunity, especially another week removed from that injury. Everyone, I got a couple of questions on Insta here, so I'm going to move over. You won't see that on the screen on YouTube and Twitter. PNLB, Marvin Jones or A.J. Dillon. I'm going to go A.J. Dillon here. Marvin Jones just hasn't been seeing the targets. And you know what? I think he sees a lot of Tre'Davious White here, and that's a problem. So, yeah, I think I'm going to completely say A.J. Dillon probably gets 15 touches here. Chiefs can't stop the run. I think it's a big day on the ground for the Packers. And Das Bootsy. All right. Ernest or Aguilar. All right, so, yeah, this is a tough call because Aguilar is really dependent upon a big play to come through. The Ernest Johnson, I don't know how many touches he's going to see. I'm going to check one thing on him, and I'll tell you, because I want to see how many touches he got last week. So the Ernest Johnson last week, he had 5 touches. Now he scored, but 31% snap share. So that is problematic. At least with Aguilar, I know he's going to get some targets. As to how many that is, not great, but he's seen at least 5 targets in 3 of his last 5 games. He hasn't had a game with fewer than 3 targets. He's put up at least 27 yards in 5 straight games. He doesn't have a great ceiling, but I think Aguilar is your player. He's involved enough in the offense, and Carolina certainly isn't going to be selling out to stop him. So I think that is your play this week. I just don't think the snap share for Ernest is high enough to go with. Great question there. Let me look back on Insta here. One more Insta, I'll come back to YouTube and Twitter. Ricardo, Javonte and Gordon in your running back, but you consider Derek Gore, Montgomery, or Wilson Jr. Wilson gets me. Wilson's intriguing. Eli Mitchell gets a start. If he holds up healthy with the ribs, I don't see them giving Wilson more than 5 carries. If the ribs become problematic or if the game is blown out one way or the other, I think Wilson gets more run. So I think there's a lot of risk there. I think Javonte and Gordon have a bad matchup because Dallas is not just like top 11 against the run. They stuff receiving backs. I'm off the top of my head, I think they're top 5, and it might be in top 2 against receiving backs. And so if Dallas plays with a lead, that's not going to be there for them. So Montgomery's another one because they have a bye next week. Are they just getting him a few touches to get his feet wet? Khalil Herbert's been fine. The Pittsburgh matchup is a brutal matchup, but it has to be a touch split, you would think. And without knowing that, it's problematic. Derek Gore took advantage of a good matchup last week and a good opportunity. But I think Green Bay shortens this game a lot, and I think that they're going to play with a lead, and therefore I think the Chiefs are going to have to throw some. So honestly, man, these are all equal plays, as you're pointing out. A great question. I might put Montgomery ahead of Javonte because Javonte is on the lesser side of the timeshare here, and that's right. And I would probably not take a chance on Wilson until they get a game in the hopper. So I'd probably go Gordon and Montgomery. But if you have a gut call on this, Ricardo, go with it because this is so close. All right, back to Twitter and Insta. Julia, fun facts. Danny Dimes, when he's thrown 20-plus passes, he only has 1 week outside of the top 2. His floor is super safe. Finished in the top 15 in 5 weeks. He is boom bust. And I'm not sure. Yeah, it's interesting there. Danny Dimes, and he has the matchup this week against the Raiders. The Raiders, like I said, the beauty with the Raiders is that they bring the number 1 pressure rate in the league without blitzing. Crosby and Ngakoue have been on fire. We know the left tackle's on injured reserve for the Giants, and their line's been in shambles. So, but he could run up the middle. This is overall not a good matchup for Danny Dimes because of the lack of the need to blitz for the Raiders. Raiders don't blitz, and that's an important part of what they do. But a very good fun fact, Julia. Thanks for sharing that. Johnny Football, Clinton Portis or Sean Alexander? Man, Clinton Portis. He was playing in that Shanahan system. Love me some Clinton Portis. Sean Alexander had the monster season. I remember that in Seattle. But Clinton Portis, man. I love Clinton Portis. All right, B Monster 5, PPR, pick one, Jacoby, Tyler, or Peoples-Jones. So I am concerned as Baker has the left shoulder injury. I think he's not wanting to hold the ball longer to take extra. I think the coaching staff really wants him to dump the ball. Since he plays a lot of zone, and I think the downfield stuff may not be there, I think he's going to be very happy taking the underneath stuff to Jarvis Landry, throwing to the running backs and the tight ends. Jacoby Myers, he has the floor. He's going to get you 5-6 catches, and I like that. Tyler Boyd. So basically, I do like Boyd here. Here's why. So Cleveland has a top 3 pressure rate. Joe Burrows, even though he's been functioning well, he's been getting hit a lot. And this week, he's not going to have much time to throw. So even though Cleveland's batting against the pass, I don't know if this is Jamar Chase game because I don't think he's got time to go downfield. But I think the underneath stuff will be there. So I think that Tyler Boyd, this is a good week for him. I think Myers is a little safer, but I think Boyd is more upside. If Boyd is a little more utilized in the red zone, Jacoby Myers had a touchdown call back. The penalty still hasn't scored one in his career. I think Boyd, 52 to 48% over Myers is that close. Peoples-Jones, I'm ruling out because of the situation here. Randy, Harrison Smith out for the Vikings versus the Ravens. I think potentially that helps both Mark Andrews. Vikings DVOA, they're top 10 against tight ends. I think having Smith out helps Mark Andrews, makes him a better play. But I also think this helps Marquise Brown because Harrison Smith is part of that last line of defense. And against that zone, his speed has been getting open downfield. So I think this is a boost for the Ravens passing game. So thank you for sharing that. If you guys see any other notable injuries, please let me know. And Johnny, I got this earlier. Thank you. James Robinson is out for those who didn't hear that. So Carlos Hyde, look, may not be a great play, but he's going to get volume. So if you need a low-end running back too, you need a flex, I think Carlos Hyde is a fine play. Looking on Insta, no more questions there right now. Delroy, you have Tom Brady on the bye, Danny Dimes on the bench. Did you start him? Again, I don't like the matchup because of the pressure that the Raiders get, but the Raiders are bottom half in pass defense. And I think with the weapons he has in Kadarius Toney and Evan Ingram and Kenny Golladay back, I think Danny Dimes is a reasonable enough play here that you could utilize him. So, yeah, I think that's a reasonable play. The pressure is going to be problematic, but I think you can get it out quickly enough and have a decent fantasy day here. Johnny Football, Adrian Peterson has defied the odds his entire career and came back stronger than expected from his ACL injury. Has been an overachieving workhorse. Does that have no value for him? He's 36 years old. You know, I mean, the ACL was a beautiful comeback. Was he 29 when that happened? I don't remember. Maybe. But 36, and he can't be in game shape. I'm sure he worked out, but can't be in game shape. And the Titans, man, they would be down double digits in the second half. And they'd run Derrick Henry because that was their identity. Adrian Peterson in the second half, he had 2 good games in the first 3 last year. After that, he was seeing like 7 to 10 carries. Yardage was okay. But at 36 years old, I mean, at some point, let's put Frank Gore out there, right? At some point, Adrian Peterson has to be Frank Gore. And I think that might be now. But I think ultimately, this week, the Rams kind of have to get a lead on Tennessee. I don't know how Tennessee slows them down. And if that's the case, then it's going to be Jeremy McNichols' show because Peterson be game scripted out. That's my thought. So that's why it doesn't have value to me. The game shape thing is the biggest one. How much work can a 36-year-old guy coming off the street have? Yeah, like I said, you're right. I mean, he has defied the odds. But at some point, you're old. 36 for a running back, that's got to be old, right? And it's not like the Marcus Allen path where you didn't have a lot of tread on the tires. Peterson has a ton of it taken away. All right, Bernard Hill. Try it on Twitter. I'm better here. Yeah, and game day, you guys, thank you. Always come here on game day. It's much easier to get to you because I did a show before this too. Can you go to Kyler if he can play? So here's my problem with Kyler this week. If he plays, his ankle has been classified as a 1 to 3 week injury. Kyler needs to be mobile to do his job. Kyler's short. If he can't get outside the pocket, he can't see the middle of the field unless he breaks contain. On his ankle, I don't think he can. So, and he was horrible against the 49ers a few weeks ago. I think 239 and 1 touchdown. And he hasn't run for like any yardage in 5 weeks. And with his ankle, he ain't running today. So, no, I think you could safely bench Kyler for Jimmy G here. I think Jimmy G's got a couple touchdowns in him here. Jumper, I'm over in Insta there, so you won't see this question. Another one. Deontay Foreman a sneaky stash? Yes, he's a sneaky stash. I think it's going to be a big old committee there. But if Adrian Peterson at 36 has nothing left in the tank, their identity is to run the ball. I don't think they want to go away from that. They've been running a lot of 3 receiver sets, 11 personnel this year. So the boxes have been lighter. So Foreman, if Peterson is washed, may or may not be. I think he's a sneaky stash, yes. Because if Peterson just doesn't have it at 36, I think Foreman gets into a 10 to 12 touch role, and we know how valuable fantasy running backs are. So I think it is a good sneaky stash. Julia, how would you rank the 3 quarterback this week? And Brissett, Love, and Baker. So Brissett has a good matchup. Brissett used the short passing game. runs on occasion, runs near the goal line. I think Brissett's a high floor play here. I think Houston offers little resistance to him. They don't blitz, which is good for Brissett. The less pressure he sees, the better off he is. So I don't think that Houston's going to. Now, I know that offensive line in Miami is terrible, but that's the thing. Brissett's done well with that bad line. And I think this week actually has a little bit of time to do something. So I like Brissett here. Love, I think that it's going to be a complete run game. We saw it last week. When Devontae and Lazard were out, they played a good run defense in Arizona. They ran. Jones, Dillon, occasional throw. Well, it's the same this week. Kansas City can't stop the run, though. So I think Jones and Dillon, they can't stack the box. They have no pass defense. They can't jeopardize the worst defensive passing. They've improved the last few weeks. I get that. But they can't take a chance on just Devontae Adams. They got Devontae Adams. So I don't like Jordan Love here. I think that he's not in a good spot. And then Baker, again, I think, we see a lot of zone from Cincinnati. I think Baker will throw some underneath stuff. But I think at the end of the day, there's a low-scoring game. And I think that's the way it's going to be because both teams at this point need to kind of play it that way. So I go Brissett 1, Baker 2, Love 3. Good question. Johnny Football is Taysom. Yes, 100% where the roster spot. Look, Trevor Simeon's terrible. And Sean Payton knows a million times more than I know. He's starting him today. Maybe. Oh, great. I got Siri talking to me. Beautiful. All right. But look, Trevor Simeon won a game for him last week. I bet you Sean Payton's rewarding him for that. When he's on the field, we're going to see just how bad he is. Taysom Hill is going to have to be their starter. And we know he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback, but he's a running back. He's a quarterback when he's on the field. Absolutely. And I have him rostered in a few spots, and I am glad to hold him because he will be the starter at some point soon, and I may need him in the fantasy playoffs. So absolutely. If people dropped him, scoop up if possible. All right, anything on Insta? We're good on Insta right now. All right, let's go back to YouTube and Twitter. All right, Guy, you've got McNichols, Scott, Mitchell, Khalil, Herbert, or Moss need to. So Mitchell, he's starting. We know he's got a chest injury or rib injury here. Could be a bit limited. It's not a great matchup, but we can throw out the matchup against San Francisco a couple weeks back. It was the Trey Lance game, and the whole game plan sucked because they put a fullback on the field, and the Cardinals played 3 defensive backs, and they stacked the box, so he couldn't do anything there. Mitchell's a very good player. He's in a great run system. I expect he'll get 15 touches here, and I expect he's a great chance of breaking something. Floor-wise, Mitchell's a great play. I also do like Zack Mosser. This is a game that most likely against the Jaguars that they play with a lead. I think he gets 12 to 15 touches. I think there's a good chance he scores. So Mitchell and Moss, I think, are the best plays on the board. Herbert only worries me because we're having David Montgomery back, and that's problematic to me because if Herbert sees his touches slash, and it's not a good matchup against Pittsburgh. If it's Herbert alone, different story, but I don't like that coming in. And Boston Scott did very well because they played with a lead against the Lions. I don't think they play with a lead this week. I know the Chargers are horrible against the run, but if the Chargers play with a lead, then Philly is going to have to throw, and Gainwell, to me, is going to be their more hurry-up back, and so I'm worried him. McNichols is a very opportunistic play because I do think that the Rams play with a lead, and I think as a receiver, he could definitely get things done, but I don't know for sure that they're not going to go to their receivers. If Julio's on the field, they may look to attack vertically a bit more. So I think that Mitchell and Moss are your safest plays. If you're worried about Mitchell's ribs injury, then I think McNichols is a fine sub. I'm going to rule out Scott and Herbert because of the situations I mentioned. Great question. And no other questions on Insta right now. Let's come back to the Benyas. Montgomery, Herbert, or Mike Davis. Yeah, it's a tough spot, right? Mike Davis did see work last week. That was helpful, but the Saints are top 5 against the run. They're lights out against the run, and Mike Davis is just, he's always been a replacement type guy. He put up some fantasy numbers, and, I get it. So hard to advocate him. But Montgomery and Herbert don't have a good matchup either. And we don't really know who's going to see more of the carries. Are they getting Montgomery some work as they go into the bye to get him, sea legs back. My guess is Herbert sees a little more work, and I think I would barely this. And again, if you have a gut call, you gotta go with it. But I would say Herbert very slightly ekes out Montgomery because Herbert's been running really hot. And I think that's the route we go. Now, San Francisco bottled him up, but it was a concerted effort. And again, I think Herbert's a little bit better to play than the rest. That's a tough call, man. Johnny, Adrian Peterson, definition of a fantasy player. It's a fantasy to hope he has a big role, but yeah, kind of. Landon, so you start CMC. Yes, you have to start him. If he's on the field, you have to. Last year, he was out for a while. They brought him back. They said, limited role. He had like 30 fantasy points against the Chiefs. And anyway, long story. But yeah, I don't think coaches can keep him off the field when he's on because he's producing. And so you got to start him. And I mean, unless you have this loaded, crazy fantasy roster, but if you don't have a super stud in there, you got to play McCaffrey. You'll kick yourself if he gets 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. And all right, Landon. All right, we got you both. All right, Johnny. All right. Dallas reminds you of the Kansas City Chiefs of the last few years. Explosive offense that can outscore any team. Yeah. Oh man, here's the key with the Cowboys is the offensive line. Even with Tyron Smith out this week, Terrence Steele started last week, and Lyle Collins was back healthy on the roster, and they sat him. Terrence Steele got a lot of reps last year, and he became a good player. So this week, now we see Tyron's out. Well, guess what? Terrence Steele moves over to left tackle. They're confident and comfortable with him. Lyle Collins moves into right tackle. That's the key to the team. They can protect the quarterback. They can blow big holes in the run game. They have Zeke Elliott. They've got world-class receivers and a quarterback. How do you pick your poison? This is the most well-rounded offense in the league right now. They can kill you either way. You can't sit on anything defensively. So, yes, Dallas, amazing. Julia, matchup Cleveland and Cincinnati. This is a game of 2 very slow-paced teams. Bottom 5 or 7 in play rate. They don't want to rush things. That keeps the game low score. It's a divisional matchup. That's important. These teams know each other's identities. So they know game planning wise, they know what they want to do. And that makes a big difference. I think that the advantage for Cincinnati is the short passing game. I don't think it's Jamar Chase game. 3 of the 4 Cleveland rushers are super high in the pass win rate from ESPN, but I see it on film. They are just they're third in pressure rate, and they are going to get to Burrow quickly. Burrow's way out screens to Mixon, short passes to Higgins and Boyd. But at the end of the day, it's dink, dunk, dink, dunk. And I think ultimately that paces this game. I think it's low scoring. Now, if a team is going to get a bigger lead, Cincinnati can do that because if Burrow kept clean enough for a 2-second period, he can get it done here. But there's a world where Myles Garrett wrecks him too, where he just gets there and just ruins the game. So Cincinnati and Cleveland, look, they're going to run Chubb, and Cincinnati knows that, and Chubb could break something. Baker can't throw downfield, but this is a good defensive matchup for him. We're going to see a lot of zone from Cincy, and Jarvis Landry fits in well with that, and the tight ends fit in well with that. But ultimately, I think this game is one, your 21-17 type game. I don't think somebody takes a 10-point lead. I just think it's a low-scoring game. I do think Cincinnati probably wins this game. Last week, I bet the Jets because I saw the letdown spot, and I was getting points, and that ended up being nice and went well. But yeah, I think Cincinnati ultimately is just right now they're in a better place as a football team. Cleveland has the Jack Conklin injury is big. That's the way I look at that one. All right, we'll take a few more questions here and call it a day, or I'll finish up what's on the screen. All right. Julia, got you. I got you. Delroy's next. George Kittle today. You know what? They say he's playing limited snaps, but my guess is that they're going to do that. If Deebo Samuel is limited, they're probably going to use him in the receiving function. Now, Arizona is like top of the league in DVOA against tight end coverage. That's a little nerve-wracking. But I do think Kittle, you know what? He's still an elite player, and he was getting more targets before the injury. So I think you go with Kittle. If you're looking at the waiver wire, I would just give Kittle a chance over anybody on the waiver wire. Just Eli, Kirk Cousins. This. It's always, what are you getting from Cousins? He's had like a lot of 1 touchdown games lately. But against the Ravens, I think this is not the Ravens defense of old. They're bottom 10 at pass DVOA. I think this is the game where they're going to get some downfield stuff going. I think this is that game where Cousins has that 3 touchdown upside in him. Now, there's always downside with Kirk Cousins because they're going to bring some pressure with Baltimore, and that's problematic. But I think it's a really good bounce back spot for Cousins. I think you could start him. Cousins or Jimmy G. So here's an answer to that one. Cousins has more upside. Jimmy has a higher floor. I think the floor is really good in this game because you can get to the Cardinals, the passing game a bit. And I think with Kittle back, Brandon Ayuk's being more utilized last week. They finally started getting him involved. I don't know the injury situation with Debo. He's going to finish. I think Jimmy is, if you need 12 to 15 out of your quarterback and, maybe even fell to 17, I think Jimmy's your guy. But if you need a 25-point game out of your quarterback because of your matchup being oppressive, then I think that Kirk Cousins is your guy there. So I think Cousins is the more volatile profile, but Jimmy G has been playing okay, and I think the matchup works out well for him today. Insta, we got 2 questions. Beasley or Renfro, full PPR. So I think that the Bills are not going to have to throw to the middle of the field in this game because they're not going to see much pass rush from Jacksonville. I think it's an outside receiver game when I projected this game out. Renfro, on the other hand, is in a great spot because the middle of the field is where you attack the Giants. And so I think that's where we look for that. So I think Renfro's in a better spot this week. Beasley's the better player. Beasley's on the better offense. I think Renfro has a better floor this game. If you need, and I say this a lot, if you need the risk the 3-point game for the 20-point game, Beasley's your guy because he can have the blow-up game we see in that offense. But Renfro's going to be your 12-point guy with very little floor this week. And then you got one more, Pitts or Goddard, full. So, look, Kyle Pitts, great football player. We understand this. But he is going to see cornerback coverage. We're already going to learn this. With no Calvin Ridley out there, it's very problematic. I think Marshawn Lattimore defends Pitts. And I think if he does that, Pitts has no chance. Lattimore is a very physical corner, knows enough tricks in the book. I think it's a bad matchup. But, look, trust your gut. If you have a feeling that Kyle Pitts, superstar player, is going to get there, I love the Goddard matchup. Goddard's in a great spot this week. I think Goddard has a good floor, decent ceiling. I think Pitts could get shut down. But if you're going to kick yourself if Pitts goes off because he's Kyle Pitts, then you got to start him. All right, Insta, I'm closing this one out on Insta. I got to get a few more questions queued up on Twitter and YouTube, so I'll get those. Insta, thank you for coming in. Everybody have a wonderful day today. Good luck in all your games. And that one there. And, all right, let's do this. All right. Now back for the last few. I'm going to make these kind of quick. I got to eat some lunch here. Oh, yeah, Johnny. All right, Johnny, let me get these last couple of questions. You'll be the last one. Kittle or Goddard? Oh, man. Goddard's safer. Goddard's going to play a full snap share. I think there's something to be said for that. Kittle was seeing more work. They're talking about limiting him today. I think that Arizona-San Francisco game is a lower scoring game. So it's always hard to sit George Kittle because he's George Kittle. He doesn't score touchdowns, and that's huge. Julia, have a blessed day as well. Thank you so much. So I think Goddard's safer. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you need 8 to 10 points out of your tight end, Goddard's your guy. If you need 20 points out of your tight end, Goddard ain't getting that, but Kittle could have a big play or two in him. So I think if you need the volatility, you're willing to risk a floor of a 4-point game, 5-point game, for the big game, then you go Kittle. But I think the safe bet is Goddard here. Bean, no, don't do it. Don't do AP over Woods because I expect Woods to play. Are we hearing anything that's saying otherwise? Let me just look up and see if there's anything I don't know. As far as I knew, Woods was fully expected to play. I think Adam Schefter had reported that. So I was good with Woods. Let me just check this real quick, see if there's anything on him. Let me see. Robert Woods is expected to play. So, yeah, he's expected to play. So, I think at this point, look, Adrian Peterson, the problem I have with him is he's going to be game script dependent. And if the Rams get out to an expected lead, the receiving back's going to be in. So I got to go with Robert Woods here. And he's getting enough volume and work. I just don't – Adrian Peterson, 36, coming off the couch, so to speak. He's probably worked out, but he can't be in game shape. I just don't see it here right now. So I'm going to go with Woods. Bean Ertz or Jared Cook. All right, so it's going to be a shorter passing game, and I think that Ertz is going to have to see targets with A.J. Green out, DeAndre Hopkins likely out. I think they're going to need to involve him more. Jared Cook gets you 25 to 35 yards a game, and he always has a chance for a TD. So Cook's kind of your TD-dependent guy. I think Ertz has to be a staple of the game plan. If you have a gut feel, go with it. I think Ertz is more involved because of the injuries and the need. So I think that's the route we go there. Cooper Cooks. Oh, man. Yeah, I know. Brandon Cooks at least has Tyrod Taylor back, which that's great for him. But, man, Amari Cooper always has blow-up upside. Cooks does too. The Dallas offense, I am not worried at all. The pass defense for Denver's not been good. The defense overall has not been good. I just find it hard to sit Amari. Here's the tiebreaker. Amari Cooper's floor to me is better than Cooks. And that's where I go. They both have upside. Love Brandon Cooks, but I think Cooper's floor is so much better. And then Cooper always has that. And I know he's been dinged up a little bit, but I guess he's off the injury report. So I think he has that upside for that 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Cooks doesn't really have that. If you have a gut feel, you definitely got to go with it. But I think Cooper is so much safer. Thanks, Johnny. Yep, going to eat some lunch here. And Brendan, yeah, always with the matchups in mind, of course. And Julia, we got you. And Guy, yeah, good luck, man. Good luck. 6 leagues, that's good. Good luck. I hope you win all your games. All right, everybody, I am out. Everybody have a wonderful day. Good luck in all your games, and I will talk to you soon.